Hello, hi, namaste everyone. I welcome you all to this live session that is being curated by MASH Project Foundation and Daily Hunt, along with the Story for Glory Fellows. We're meeting today to discuss about the National Journalism Day. National Journalism Day comes at a very interesting cornerstone of our current context of our country. It sets the freedom of speech and expression liberty in our country. And today we're going to be talking about how freedom of expression is important, how journalism is important to the democracy, the world's largest democracy, that is India. Today, we have some very interesting people on the panel. But before that, I'd like to quickly introduce who all are the partners for today's live session. My name is Mohit. I will be moderating this session on behalf of MASH Project Foundation, which is a leading social impact advisory hailing from Delhi. We have this session curated and planned via Daily Hunt, a curated aggregator for content for Bharat. In tier 2, tier 3 India, they've been aggregating news content for a very long time now, and they've become the biggest name in news content aggregation. Apart from that, we have some very interesting panelists because they're going to be talking mostly about journalism. I'm going to be the normal citizen, bringing in the perspective of a normal everyday person because I know the least about them. I also feel a little bit envious from them because they're all very young and doing the best that they do. And they're going to be talking about content, social media, journalism, and what do they feel? How is the content scape changing across India? These fellows, these individuals, they hail from a program called Story for Glory. Story for Glory was started as an initiative to bring together all the content creators that are hailing from the true Bharat, the true tier 2, tier 3 cities of India, and giving them an opportunity to present their ideas. So, without further ado, we welcome our very first panelist today, Miss Radhika Nair. I'd like to introduce her as a very passionate storyteller who's been a diligent participant in MUNs, debates, elocutions from a very long time, from across her school and college community. She wants to work in the TV media space and wants to aggregate so much passion into her work that people get moved by what she wants to do. With this, let's welcome Ms. Radhika Nair to the panel. Hello. Yes. Hi,
Hi,
Radhika. How are
Mohit.
you doing?
Doing good. Thank you very much for that lovely introduction. And happy National Journalism Day to everyone.
Happy
Thank you for
National
having me here.
Journalism Day. Lovely, lovely. Yes. With this, we'll have our second panelist on the panel today. Her name's Miss Shubhangi Kumari. She hails from the city of Bangalore, and she's been a passionate storyteller and someone who studied journalism and psychology from Mount Carmel School. She's worked on various short films and citizen journalism projects, which I'm really keen on knowing about because this is exactly what we want our youth of India to be, actively participating in making the India together. Hi Shubhangi, how are you doing?
Hi, Mohit. I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me here.
Lovely, lovely. I hope you guys are doing well. And with this, last but not the least, the best one, I think, in my opinion, Miss Avantika V. We have her from born in Coimbatore and Tamil Nadu. Miss Avantika is a passionate storyteller along with a bachelor's degree in psychology and journalism. She also has a Bharatnatyam diploma of 4 years, if I'm correct, right? And she's a passionate storyteller. She wants to work. She's pivoted her career into journalism after discovering her love for writing. Isn't that what we really want from all of ourselves, to have that clarity of job and career across our lives? How are you doing, Avantika?
I'm doing good, Mohit. Thank you so much. Actually, thank you for inviting me to be a part of this discussion today. And that is too much of a hype and too much of an introduction. I'm still figuring out things. So yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure. I think all of you deserve it 100% with the kind of work that you guys do. And I think our audiences will also get to know the work that you do. So I'd really like to push you guys to tell more about how you guys came here and how this journey started with you guys. So let's start on the day and account of Happy Journalism Day. I think we should start by quick introductions and knowing why. why should one get into journalism and why young minds today want to get into journalism. So I want to learn from you guys and understand what brought you into the space of journalism. Radhika, how about we start with you?
Yes, I think it's a very good opportunity today to discuss about journalism and youth. About me, if I tell you, I am basically doing my master's in biotechnology from Jamia Millia Islamia. But however, I have always loved to tell people story, be it factual or fictional. And more than story, it's about the reactions that people give me. So whenever I make some video or articles, I tend to try to meet them in person and then tell them the story to see the reaction of people. That is what the power of imparting information is. Storytelling has
Well,
always been my hobby, and I think media and journalism particularly is the fourth pillar of democracy. So it is a really really important aspect in our day-to-day lives that we tend to miss every day. And media being digitalized in nowadays, it's a trend to share news which is as quick as 2 seconds. So media is a very important aspect in our lives, I believe.
that's very well said. What do you think about Shubhangi? How did you come into this space of journalism?
So actually, I got introduced in the space of journalism through the field of advertising. Is because if you could ask anyone of my parents, they would say that I would be more attached to the television when there was an ad going on, as compared to when an actual serial or a show was going on. So just the fact that how a small visual or a small thing could create an impact and create a change in mind that force someone to do something is something that was very quick. And then I got introduced to journalism only a year back, and then there's no stopping. I've just been experimenting around with the field, and I've learned so much. And I think that is why the youth today needs journalism, because there's so much to learn in this field, and it empowers you. The field of journalism, it empowers you. So yes.
That's very true. Again, I think you guys are coming all prepared with your thoughts and answers. Yeah, I think I should be more curated in asking. I'll do that. Perfect. But first, we'll hear from Avantika. What motivated her to be in the space of journalism? Yes.
Yeah, so I think journalism for me, I think today the field is pivoted where it's, not just news or anything. Today, journalism has taken broader forms when it comes to digital media, and it's become more of storytelling. And it's always been that way where we have been, carriers of other people's stories. So I think that's something that really interested me because I believe that, expression may it be in any form is very important. So people get to understand other people's stories as well as your own. So I think that's where it all started. It started from a young age. I used to read a lot, and then there was dancing, which is obviously a form of storytelling. So yeah, I think that's where. And when I was like in my towards my final year of my course in Bharatanatyam, that's when we had this seminar. So it was about children with who are differently abled, and it was about their parents and caregivers. And there was this very important conversation that came up where caregivers, are not much spoken about them and what they go through. So that really intrigued me, and there were, a lot of things that I thought, and I think that way there's a lot that journalism gives you that space to talk about a lot of things that are generally not spoken about, and I think that is the thing that really really drew me into the field. So yeah.
That's very interesting. Journalism does give you a space to talk about things that's not much spoken about. That's very correct. And but I think there's this dilemma. So we'll jump on this sidetrack of a conversation quickly, and I try to understand. So I think journalism is also about seeking that final truth. Fine. Before telling the story, it's about knowing that final truth. What's in the core of it, by with the factual and with the supported documents, and it may cause some aggression or may cause some friction in your life or career to go after that. As per you or your experience, what do you guys feel is that one quality that one journalist should always have? And this is that one very specific quality that makes or breaks a journalist? Whoever wants to start.
If I could.
Yeah, go ahead, Shubham. Yes.
I think I would say two. One, being a very good listener is something that I feel that being a very good listener and a very good observer. And second, being true to yourself, I guess. It's just being true to yourself. It's bringing your true passion into the work that you do. And that would make the work that you're doing much better than it could be. So, yes.
That's very true. Correct. Interesting. Okay.
I
Radhika.
feel that in journalism, or particular aspiring journalist or a good journalist should abide by a certain rule that I actually take in place. That is to know the unknown and to tell the untold. So
Oh,
if
wow.
you abide by these two things, I believe you will go straight into the truth that is there, and then you'll strike a balance between what is true and what is fake.
Interesting. Interesting. I think we will get to know some things that were unknown and untold before, and I'm looking forward to them in this session. Yes, Avantika, what do you think is that core feature that every journalist should have?
I think adding to what Shubhangi and Radhika already said, I think you should be curious. One has to be curious, and you have to ask why, not once, but then when you get an answer for that why, you ask one more why. So it's one question on top of the other. Don't, be convinced with one answer. You have to keep digging. I think that is, and to find the motivation to do that sometimes can be hard because there are a lot of dead ends. You will not find answers, and you will start doubting yourself. So yeah, coming back to what Shubhangi said, believe in yourself, trust the process, and I think you learn something every day, so it's a constant learning, journalism. So yeah.
Lovely. I think now that we've set up the scape for budding journalists that are on the call and the audience as well, to know what is that one quality as well. I'm really curious to know about your content. So you guys are all content creators. You create your content in multiple different facets, multiple different formats. I want to understand in the current context of journalism, we see YouTubers. Today, YouTube has become one of the very big space for journalism to sprout. We see these new age digital and print media coming out, correct? Now we're not succumbed to the geographical reach of a daily. Now we can also reach out to decentralized, more local audiences as fast, as quickly as possible. Like you very rightly said, within 2 seconds, now we can transfer that information to our audiences. I want to understand from you guys as content creators, how do you think your content aligns with the content and scape of journalism today? Hi, anyone can start if you guys are waiting. Avantika, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, so speaking of my content, I would say mine is a bit diverse because, there is expression through dance, through poetry. Um, I'm mostly in the writing space, of course. So that way, I think I'm still experimenting with what I would want to do ultimately. But then, when talking about how content is going to go, I think short form content and also somewhere where information meets entertainment is the way to go, because I think that's where you can grab. Being an audience myself, I like to, my attention span is definitely decreased over time, and I'm more into more shorter forms of content, and you just want that piece, like within that 2 minutes you want to know everything. So I think that's where content is going, that's where we are headed to. But it would be interesting to know where things will be in another 5 years, because I think 5 years before no one would have expected digital media to blow up this way. So I think it's a constantly evolving field, so I think we should also evolve along with it. That's the only way to survive or sustain.
That is very true. I think not just you, Avantika, we've all experienced a decrease in our attention span. But yes, that I think you bring out a very important point that today's information has to be married with entertainment very rightly, very, very interestingly. We have that very impactful 5 seconds with the audience, We have to drive that key message to make them curious in those 5 seconds, so that they go ahead and read more about it, probably spend more attention of their time. And this also brings, like, there are now 10,000 ideas to be talked about. How do you, Radhika, probably deal with that issue, and also tell us about your content and how that fits in your idea of journalism?
So my content basically is I've always been very curious about social issues, but I think social issues, if you take any of them in mainstream media that we see, has the same headlines, has the same narrative. So my idea is always to bring in the different angle. For example, in my Story for Glory fellowship as well, the content that I had was about the rag pickers in Gazipur. However, if you search for rag pickers or in particular Gazipur landfill, we have a helplessness narrative for them or how they are dealing with the poverty. My angle was a different one on how they have a hope of living there, how they have adjusted themselves living there. That is the core reality that is there. Instead of just helping them or having a certain angle of sympathy towards them, how are they actually living there? So that angle, I think, is a little bit missing in mainstream media. And I think if we have one major headline that is there in all the TV news channels, if Twitter is laying off people, that is the only main headline that is there. So instead of just having one important news, I think other news as well should be portrayed in a very good way. And I will totally agree with Avantika that our attention span is nearly from 90 seconds to 120 seconds only. So it is, for an aspiring journalist, it is a task to bring in the important news in just few headlines or words.
Interesting. Yes, I think that's a raging problem in today's journalism as well. Like, how do you condense all of that factual information down to that 190-second mark? I think it's a boon and the bane at the same time. But who am I to comment upon it? I think we'll hear from Shubhangi how her content aligns with journalism, and whether it's a boon or a bane to have that 90-second mark of attention now.
So what the kind of content I feel that works for me especially is use of fiction or satire to tell a particular story, or that is, and therefore make it impactful. So this one time, this 1 year of my experimentation with the field of journalism, I had made a short film on interreligious harmony, and it was about how fundamentalists cannot be cannot I mean cannot stay in a secular country, but I used that message, and it's a very strong message if you look about it. But I used that. I made a movie on it in a form of animation. I used the medium of stop motion animation, and then it was kind of something that you could. There could be two perspectives. You could see it in a very casual, kiddish manner because animation, but again, it's conveying a very strong message. So I think use of such medium to put across messages that needs to make an impact is are very helpful. And the of course the reduce of time span, the attention span of our viewers is something that is coming in way of journalists. But I think again, that's it that is how it is. I mean, it changes regularly, so yes.
Correct. I think, as Avantika pointed out, we have to evolve with our times to come. And who better to talk about evolution than the generation that is going to take it next? So I know all of you are younger than me, and that does make me a little bit envious, but I'm fine with it. Why? Because you're extremely, extremely talented people. I've had the opportunity of interacting with you in personal life as well, and seeing some of your work. And let me tell you, it's really moving. So, from that lens of engaging as a young journalist, correct? You have so many different opportunities. There are so many confusions as a young journalist, correct? And I want to understand, A, from you guys, why should a young journalist aspire to be a journalist in the current space today? Why is it important for the youth of today to be part of journalism of our country? And then we'll probably explore the setup a little bit more. Yes. Who wants to start? Radhika, would you like to give it a go?
Definitely, I think it's a very important question to discuss. Youth basically is like a window to the stories and ideas. The youth, is the one that knows exactly how to handle a situation. That is what I believe. We are in the explorative stage of our journey of human age. So, I think the youth is the age limit where you can explore the maximum, tell the truth. So I believe that youth is very, very important for the journalism sector.
Very rightly said. I think you should, in the 20s, explore most of your bad decisions. That's been my life motto. But yes, Shubhangi, what do you think?
Yes, like I said in my interaction, is journalism. It provides just the basic thing. It provides knowledge and therefore it empowers individuals and therefore allows you to take the right decisions that you need to, that you need to take for your society or for yourself, for your society or for the environment or for anything. So I think that's why it's very necessary for the youth now to, come into the field of journalism with the right set of mindset so that we do create a good impact.
That's very true. Correct. For a newer India, I think we need newer, very interesting journalists as well. Avantika, would you like to close that thought? Like, why do we need youth in journalism with probably encompassing that whole conversation?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree to what Radhika and Shubhangi said. And I also feel that more than youth getting into the field of journalism, I think youth even being actively involved in participating in news or even reading news is something that's very important. Because if you see, like, my parents' generation or my grandparents' generation, we would always see them, taking in the morning, just taking a newspaper, a cup of tea or coffee, and that's part of their ritual. But today, including me, like, the first thing I do in the morning is to maybe scroll Instagram. See, that's not a bad thing in general, because the news also comes on Instagram. But trying to choose the kind of content you consume is also very important, because as youth you should be aware, because today's youth is tomorrow's, and in India is a country which has maximum of youth population. So I think we should somewhere understand also that social media is not everything, because there is a lot of fake news that also goes on in the social media. So youth should, in general, we should be aware of what's going on and also of the kind of content we consume, because that's going to shape our future. So yeah, I think that way journalism in the field on its own is actually very important, and it should never lose its significance, which sometimes I feel goes a bit, it's very rare that you find, like, I myself, because I'm studying journalism now, I've started reading the newspaper. Otherwise I never used to do it. And only when I did start reading all of that did I realize what I was missing out on. So I think that should kind of change in today's youth.
Interesting. You bring out a very, very important point, how social media has become at the helm of journalism today. And because of all the formats that we now can experience on social media, of course. But before that, I have this one fun little question to probably ask. Uh, for today's youth to make that decision to get into journalism or not, correct? There are these very interesting internal conflicts and questions that there will be. I remember, I don't think that I'm that old, but I remember in my day and age, my parents would ask me questions like, why do you want to become like a journalist? Why do you want to become like a reporter? It's such a difficult job to have. It's going on the ground, it's on field. You might be at the helm of danger at most times because you're always in conflict situations. So, from that lens, do you think, did you guys come across any of those thoughts, or this is something that would be, I think, bifurcating, since we all agreed that youth should actively employ themselves with journalism? I want to understand from your perspective, is it easy or is it difficult in the current context of our society to be a journalist, just generally?
So I feel like it's passion. See, whatever you do, you should be passionate about it. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to stick to it. So if you want to become a journalist, the first question you need to ask yourself is, are you passionate enough to continue to be one? And B, I think in today's changing landscape, it's not necessary you have to be only a reporter, or like as Shubhangi said, you can even make fictional films that highlight social issues. So the scope is very, very vast. I think that's a big advantage in today's scene, where you need not, stick to being held in a particular mold. So that way, I think, yeah, there are definitely questions that I've asked myself. Even today morning, I was reading an investigative piece, and I was like, wow, it's amazing to read. But then, imagine if I am involved, and you don't know when your head is on the line. So yeah, I think ultimately it's the passion. Like with any field, it's the passion that will keep you going.
Okay, interesting, interesting. Um, Hello, am I audible? Yeah,
Yes, you are.
perfect. So yeah, I think along with that whole passion of being a journalist, I think it's also about rigging the final truth of multiple different kinds of journalism. For example, it might not always be conflict zones, but maybe business journalism is not considered that well in the domain of journalism. Like that's the typecasted image of journalism, that you have to have a mic in your hand and be with the people and voicing that mass media interaction. But of course, journalism is a larger concept, larger idea in itself. So, what other conflicts did you guys face while probably making that choice, if you ever did? Radhika, Shubhangi, we'll take one of you guys, whomsoever wants to stay.
If I could go.
Yeah, sure.
So, for me, especially, I would agree with Radhika in this. My first thing is, to be very honest, the thrill that you get when you're working in this field. It's unmatchable. You don't get that anywhere else. And that is something that is, again, drew me towards this field. And second thing, to answer your question, um, it's, I'm sorry, can you please repeat your question?
So, largely, I think what we're trying to readdress is did you face any stereotypes around being a journalist while you were choosing to be in this field?
Right. So I've tried to represent a lot of people with me today. Is that when I first came into the field of journalism, of course, the entertainment field was the first one that got our attention, and while doing that, there was a lot of comment that entertainment field is not real journalism. It does not represent the true hard facts of the society. It does not, but there are people who do consume such news, and there are things that do need attention, and we have our required streams of media covering those newses. But again, the entertainment is something that keeps us going. So again, like you said, business journalism does not always have that attention that it requires. Similarly, I think that's one of the stereotype that I face, that entertainment journalism mein kuch nahi hai, and that.
That's very true. I think that's entirely on point for a country that moves itself on an India-Pakistan match, when there is a cricket match and it moves an entire country, or when everyone's excited to know that Shah Rukh Khan's new movie is coming in 2023. I think entertainment and sports is an equal important part of journalism as well, bringing out those important news, because we do get informed and emotionally moved by those concepts. I think that's also an interesting, probably like an interaction, or like a similarity zone with social media today. Since social media avails ourselves the opportunity to have a decentralized interaction, right? So if I like entertainment, I get entertainment content. If I like, let's just say sports, I get sports content. I get the power to choose, like you very rightly said, Avantika, that one should be cognizant and aware of what kind of content they're consuming, what kind of attention they're diversifying and distributing into all of these spaces. How do you think social media is going to change the idea of journalism and the scape of journalism in our country in the coming few days? Radhika, would you like to start?
Sure. So in social media, there are bane and boons as well. Even a 12-year-old kid now says that I am a content creator. So in this sea of news that we have, it's our responsibility to see which news is fake and which news is true. In recent years as well, if you would have seen, a lot of protests that have taken place in our country is because of fake news only. There is no factual accuracy in the news that we get through social media. So having a filter in news is what is the need of the hour, I believe. However, there is pros and cons. So the positive impact is that as you said, Mohit, I totally agree with you. It's a diversified news section that we're getting. It is we who decide what kind of news and information we want to consume. But with that, we also would like to know what news is true and which is fake. So that there is a positive and a negative aspect to that.
Very interestingly said. I think with the power to consume content that we like, also comes the responsibility of knowing what kind of content is correct or informed. Right? It's not having a spin. It's not spinned towards a particular agenda. Very correct. Avantika, what do you think about social media and particularly the idea of journalism collectively together?
Yeah, so I think social media, in a sense, today it's given the public to voice their opinions on a lot of things, which is not the way it was before. Because today, if you open Twitter, on anything you can, you'll in fact find information on Twitter before it even comes out as a news. So a lot of times, I think you can immediately inform. And I think I read a story about uh, there was a girl who was traveling the railway, and then she was disturbed by a fellow passenger, and then she just tweeted about it, and immediately the officials saw her tweet and responded, not only on Twitter but also took action immediately. So see, that way social media, it's connecting us, and in that particular case, it gives you that sense of security. Imagine if there was no social media, you may have had to call a relative or call someone, and people are not, and it was sometime during the night or something, so people are not always available. But on social media, it's different. It's immediate. The voice of the public is available. People are able to express their opinion immediately. They don't need to wait for anything. But at the same time, there are too many opinions also out there, so that also becomes a problem. So as Radhika, I think Mohit said, I'm not sure, freedom comes with responsibility. So we should be responsible, when using social media. I think that's the only way you can make it a positive experience for everybody.
Interesting. I think, of course, the onus is on the audience to identify what's correct and what's not. At the end of the day, we're making our decisions from that lens. What do you think, Shubhangi? How do you think social media is changing journalism of today?
According to my opinion, I think I would say journalism, even though it does allow, I would talk about the negative aspects now that we've spoken about the positive aspects already. It does allow people to put forward their opinions, and it enforces freedom of speech basically. But I feel journalism and social media are completely different fields, because journalism is telling what happened to the fact, whereas I think now that the youth of, like, the current youth are consuming news only mostly through social media. I would not say only, mostly through social media, and very less through newspapers or, let's say, news channels. So the social media, it sells opinions, and rather than giving the actual news what happened, it's a person telling their opinion on that news, and therefore people who read that news, they read that opinion and therefore form. So I think according to me, that is one of the reason why there's like the division in the current scenario. Because there are people with their own set of opinions, and then those opinions goes forward towards the normal public, and therefore they go forward with it. So yes, and I think this again has been very well used by various digital medias now. You could say Scoop or BuzzFeed. They're making use of this, and there's something, the Dhruv Talks. They make use of this, and then very well, and then they are doing very well in the field. So yeah.
That's very correct. Yeah, I think you mentioned Scoop, there is Quint, all of these new age digital media platforms that are coming and using social media to advance the right information to the masses. I think what I've encompassed as a everyday citizen is that it comes down to the onus of responsible activism and responsible actively participating with that journalism. So I have to make that effort in understanding what information is correct and always fact checking my bit. Also, what I've understood is that social media is not exactly journalism. It might seem like it from a far lens, from a different perspective, but it's just a mass distribution channel. What journalism is a mass distribution channel along with the trust that the information being sent is very factually correct, it's opinionated with a well-rounded of thought process, and that is what is missing in social media largely. There is a very interesting thought process. I have a question. I think I'd be very curious to know, since most of us are on social media and engaging with content today, do you think it is important or imperative now to have maybe a curriculum around journalism or consuming journalistic content in schools or colleges today, so that people get to know how to fact check things, how to probably be a part of right groups where there are information disparity and transparency is completely there?
I
Anyone?
think it's absolutely imperative and important for colleges and schools to have this, because even a 7 year, 10-year-old kid has a mobile phone with him or her. So that kid is open to all information that is present in social media. So from starting age, if we tell students what is correct and what is not correct, or how to check what is right and what is wrong, the truth, they will have a mindset to create an ideology towards journalism. So it is very important in, it wasn't important in the previous years, I believe, but nowadays I think it is very important to understand. Even if we get some courses like that, it's very important to know what is right and what is wrong. So definitely,
I
totally
think
agree
that
into it.
speaks out to all the edtech entrepreneurs of the country to probably create that for Bharat today. And also, maybe Daily Hunt can introduce something like that, a curriculum for consuming the right fact checked journalism. I think that's a great idea for our teams to take ahead. Interesting. I would last ask you that, since we're going into the end of our particular live session and culminating with time as well, I want to understand from your perspective. Social media, we talked about how attention span is coming down, how content is today's news aggregation. From all of these different spheres of thought, how do you think is the journalism of tomorrow going to look like? From 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when let's just say you and me would probably be roughly around the age where we peaked our careers, I want to understand, how do you envision journalism to be? How would people, audiences, masses would then consume information in the right manner, distributed to everyone, the most egalitarian way possible? Avantika.
This is a very tricky question, to be honest, because I think no one knows what would happen in the future. But seeing the way, just seeing the trend in which things are going, as I said earlier, it's going to be a lot of short form content. And personally, I would like it if journalism, now there's a divide between media and people. There are still people who are afraid to approach the media, to come out and speak about a lot of things, even though there are platforms like, where you can express anything and everything. So I feel in the future, if that changes, where journalism and journalists as such are not viewed as too much of an alienated much of an alienated field. I think a lot has to change, Mohit, that way. Like, not only in journalism, like the entire social structure of our country, and there are a lot of things, even world around. I think things would progress, and generally people would become more open to a lot of things, and that would also in turn affect the journalism field. So obviously, it's going to go. The digital media is going to definitely take the forefront. But apart from that, I think I'm here to just sit and watch and hopefully be part of the evolution.
Interesting. Of course. I hope so too. What do you think about this, Shubhangi?
For me, I feel that it'll take a step back, and that step back would be for a good reason. Because now that if you see the entertainment section, a lot of movies that say materialistic in nature are being boycotted. So now that we are coming back, I say, to our senses, if that would make sense, we would slowly, and people are also saying that people are only screaming in the field. Every time you talk to someone like casually, "Yaar, ye hua," there people are only screaming in the field of journalism, and there's nothing, fruitful that's happening. So I think now that people are slowly realizing what's actually happening in the society, the things would take a step back, and I think people would start working more towards what is actually needed, and not, uh, yeah, that.
Interesting. So largely, if I understand that, people would now go back to the idea of more informed, trusted journalism, since they've seen the bad side of how this can probably create echo chambers, and probably social media can create that very centralized thought process. Interesting.
Right.
Radhika, what do you think?
I think before going to the future of journalism, we have to understand the backbone of journalism. That whatever we say, it's rightly said that such kadwa hai. So to find the truth, we'll have to struggle. In past, we had to, in present and in future as well, to find to dig in the truth. So the future of social media and journalism for me will be accessibility of information for everyone, be it a person from tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 section, or to a lower strata section. We need to understand that there are a lot of issues that we don't even know currently. So accessibility of
Interesting.
information, what is the future of journalism for me is.
I think that will be for the better of all of us. With this, we come to the end of our session. Thank you so much. I think we talked a lot about specificities of youth in journalism, and what kind of emotions and experiences one goes through when they choose to be a journalist. What are the expansive ideas of journalism and how they're changing with social media, with content, with shorter media's attention span, and how we generally typecast journalists, which is not very much required. But today is largely about celebrating journalism. Today is about the National Journalism Day. So, wishing you all again a happy National Journalism Day. I have one last suggestion for our audiences from your bank of trusted people that you would know. So, quickly, if you'd like to share any message for the youth that is thinking of being a budding journalist, or if you have any idols that you would like to put forward to these people, okay, look forward to these content spaces, look forward to these journalists, and learn from them. And of course, if you want to plug in something of your content that people can really watch in and tune into and learn more about journalism and content tomorrow. Anything. Avantika, would you like to go ahead and start?
Mohit keeps putting me on the spot.
Oh, I'm so
Anyway.
sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
No, it's fine. It's fine. So, happy National Journalism Day to everybody. And I think to anybody who is aspiring to become a journalist, first of all, kudos. And it's great that you even have that thought in you, because journalism somewhere also needs you to be a little bit selfless, be objective, and it's a lot of things. And sometimes it is true that it is hard, it's not very rewarding at times, but the moment you are able to crack a story, or you're able to see that, you're able to bring out stories of people who were desperate to be heard, I think that is the rewarding point, or you get that gratification at that time. So anything you choose, there's always going to be opposition, there's always going to be skepticism, there are going to be people who are going to tell you it's not going to work. But if you believe in yourself and you have passion to do it, you can just go ahead and do it. And of course, I think in journalism, every day is a learning day for you. So you will be a constant student like I am. So I think basically I write poetry. I wrote something about Black Lives Matter during that time. So I write poetry. I write feature pieces, and I also kind of delved a little bit into investigative journalism. So I think to anybody who is looking to get into the field, just explore. There's a lot to explore, and I think it's not necessary in today's day and age to also constrict yourself to being one kind of journalist. So if you're good at it, able to do it, just go ahead and take a leap.
Lovely. We will all look forward to that leap. Radhika?
I think for aspiring journalists, including me, congratulations to us. We have the courage to tell the truth, show the truth. And my ideal is actually Ravish Kumar sir. I really, really follow him a lot. The way he speaks, the amount of information he gives in a little span of time is very, very good. And welcome to the world of journalism. It's fun, it's thrilling, it's more of having courage to tell the truth. So, as I told in the beginning as well, let's go into the field of telling the untold.
Yes, very rightly said. Dwelling in the idea of unknown and the untold. Very correct. Shubhangi, yes.
Yes, I guess I'll be summing up what both Avantika and Radhika just said because yes, I'm like we should be very proud of ourselves who are trying to be in the field of journalism because even though it's a very hard and a tough field, it has vast number of opportunities and there is anything and everything new to learn every day. So yes, at one side where the field is let's say daunting or anything, but the other side it's very thrilling and if you have the passion for it, you love the job. So yes, that's all from me.
Lovely. So, with passion, with stories that are untold, and of course, Avantika bringing out the courage, the bit where you should explore, learn more about journalism, and don't be that one kind of journalist. I think we're here celebrating happy National Journalism Day to everyone that is watching this stream. Thank you so much, you three, as SFG fellows and as budding aspiring journalists to a lot of our audiences. Thank you so much for being so awesome and relatable to our audiences and making it really fun and informative at the same time. Lastly, I'd like to thank MASH and Daily Hunt for curating this session and bringing this to the vast audiences in multiple different languages and on the Daily Hunt app. I think this has been a great day and happy Journalism Day to everyone for the last time. Bye bye. Take care. I think that's it for today. Thank you